Welcome back to The Bridge. I am very, very honored to talk with Jim McAleese, the founder of McAleese and Associates. Jim, talk to me about your feeling of the pulse of the defense market at this point. What's going on?
Well, I can tell you two metrics you should look at, sir. The state of our market right now is very, very strong. When I look at the investment community right now, as a general rule of thumb, the major defense primes, the investor will spend usually about $20 or $21 for each dollar's worth of earnings per share that contractor will generate this year, right, in terms of 2017 EPS. Right. We call that, sir, the P/E ratio, price to earnings ratio. That's about 25% higher than we've seen it if we look back over the last 5 years average, number one. Okay. Number two, if you look at the major services contractors, think Booz Allen, CACI, Mantech, Leidos, right? That same investor will pay about $21 to $24 for each dollar's worth of earnings per share that company will produce, right? Which tells you that they're expecting major growth to come out of those professional services contractors this year. And that's about 30% higher.
30?
Yes, sir, than we've ever seen about over the past 5 years average. So for right now, until we see what the outcome of the tax reform issue is, because that's a big float of all the contractors' EPS upwards, right? Right now, our market is strong.
Very strong.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And maybe some would say it's about to become stronger because the president has committed, or at least asked for, another $54 billion for the defense budget. Right?
Sir, I thought you might ask about that.
And so, given that, who are going to be the big winners and losers in your view? I mean,
we have. May I break it into two pieces, if I would, please?
Yeah.
If that's okay. So, as you know, Mick Mulvaney, the OMB administrator, released his 2018 skinny budget last Thursday. Right. So he basically flatlined the entire federal discretionary budget at $1.1 trillion. And the winners, obviously, were DOD, about $50 billion. This is for 2018. For next year, about $50 billion or 10%. DHS, General Kelly, they'll get about 6% more next year in 2018. And obviously, Veterans Affairs, they will get about another 6% more. To accommodate that growth in 2018, there are natural bill payers. So what you can fundamentally see is that the president has basically said, I'm not going to add to the deficit, and that growth in those three primary agencies will have to be offset by 10 to 20% reductions everywhere else. And so what you can see is two things, sir. You can see there's a political bent to the targeting of the State Department and the EPA because they're going to get 30% cuts. But what you can see is everywhere else, whether you're talking Interior, HUD, Health and Human Services, Agriculture, Commerce, Interior, even the Corps of Army Engineers is basically targeted for a 10 to 20% cut. So right. From my perspective, what this would tell me is that as we have a new president in town, he's looking at the entire federal government as containing about a 10 to perhaps 20% non-value added.
Okay, so let me ask you a question on,
yes,
on this, and we have about a minute left. But
yes, sir.
Frankly, you are well known in this business as being an avid supporter of the warfighter.
Yes,
absolute
sir.
Commitment to that. How's the warfighter going to fare, so to speak, in this next round of budgeting?
There is no doubt the warfighter is going to end up well, and I will tell you why. Separate from the 2018 budget that you saw announced, the department has also requested for an extra $30 billion for the 2017 supplemental for the department right here, right now. The important part of that is that Secretary Mattis took that extra $30 billion and he broke it into two pieces. He's asking for $5 billion more for the war to fight ISIL, and he's asking for the other $25 billion to be put into the DoD's base budget. This is critical for the warfighter because instead of going from $524 billion at the base and slamming into the wall of sequester in 2018 with a $50 billion jump, what we should see, if a compromise can occur, will go from $524 billion, we'll get $25 billion more, or about 5% growth in 17, yes. And we get the last $25 billion in 2018 for about another 4% growth.
Okay, well, Jim, the time is very brief, and you obviously you are very well equipped to answer all these questions, and I bet you I could ask you 20 more, but unfortunately we're out of time right now, but I thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be in your house, sir.
So I'll have some final thoughts when we return.